Not a day goes by that I don't get a comment asking me to make more recipes that don't contain protein powder. So, hi, if you're new here, I'm Amanda, aka Fit Food AE, and today we're going to be making 10 high protein, low calorie dessert recipes that don't contain protein powder. So, let's get started, shall we? So, the first recipe we've got is a cookie skillet that doesn't contain protein powder. I'm very well known for my cookie skillets, but I always use PE Science, and as much as I love PE Science, I want to make you guys a version that doesn't contain protein powder because I know some of you just don't like to use it. Maybe you don't have it on hand, it's too expensive, etc. So the main things I kind of did differently in this recipe versus my one with protein powder is use an egg and an egg white, use more non-fat Greek yogurt in place of the applesauce, and also use more powdered peanut butter. Now for this recipe, you're gonna need a mini cast iron skillet. Mine is 6 inches and you can find it linked in my Amazon store. Trust me, it's worth it. I think it was only like $20 or so, and I use it in so many recipes. This version is just a classic chocolate chip, but honestly, I feel like I can make any of my skillet cookies into a version without protein powder. So this caused an uproar on the internet. I made 2 versions of this skillet. The first one I made was cakey. So basically, I only baked it for an extra 3 minutes or so, but it changes the texture completely. So this is what it looks like with a cakey texture. So yeah, if you guys like it cakey, it's the exact same recipe, just bake it for an extra 3 minutes. But guys, I prefer my cookie skillet to be gooey. It sends the internet into an uproar every time I post it looking like this. Half the people say it looks raw, underbaked, etc. I disagree with that, but whatever. And I had a dinner party the other day and I made my friends not this version of the cookie skillet, but a different version. And I made it underbaked like this and they loved it. So yeah. Either way, you guys, bake it according to your preference and it's going to be delicious no matter what. Next up, we've got these brownies. This whole tray of brownies has 40 grams of protein without using protein powder. And the texture looks exactly the same to some of my other brownie recipes that I have, if not better. So super excited for this one. So what I did differently here is using more Greek yogurt, using an egg and egg white, and also using more powdered peanut butter. So similar to the other recipe, if you guys see a pattern here, my goal is to just make my recipes more accessible to everyone because I know not everyone likes to use protein powder. Some people say it gives them stomach problems. Some people, I know if you're under 18 or still with your parents like aren't a fan of protein powder. Like my mom is not a fan, but I'm 29 years old and I can make my own decisions. So and yeah, I encourage my clients to not eat more than 2 servings of protein powder a day, whether that be in a shake or oatmeal or in dessert. So I understand like if you want a sweet treat, but you don't want it to contain protein powder, these recipes will be your go-to. So this like rectangular baking tin or whatever you call it, it was 6 by 9 inches, I believe. But whatever you have, honestly, will be fine as long as it's not too wide because you don't want your brownie to be like super thin. These are great because they don't take long to cool at all. I'd recommend eating them warm, but even if you want to eat them out of the fridge, they taste great as well. But those chocolate chips, when they're like gooey and melty, that's when it tastes the best in my opinion. So I cut it into 6 brownies, but of course you can cut it into 8, whatever you prefer. And yeah, these don't taste like Greek yogurt heavily or whatever, because I feel like a lot of those protein powder recipes, you bite into it and you can literally just taste Greek yogurt. These taste chocolatey, fudgy, they're like super thick, so good. And you can adjust the chocolate chips according to your preferences, like you could add more or less, depending on if you like it really sweet or not. When I was thinking about what I wanted to do for this recipe, I was considering making black bean brownies, and I'll make those in the future, but I did want to make these recipes like at least some of them maybe like more simple, and I was like, oh, maybe some people don't like black beans. So this is what I came up with. Let me know if you like it. I know you will. So next up, we've got this white chocolate raspberry cheesecake. This is a single serving cheesecake made in a 4.5 inch mini springform pan. So I love the way this recipe turned out. Basically, you gotta make the crust first. What I did differently for the crust was I actually added some powdered peanut butter to it in order to increase the protein content there. And then I actually increased the ratios of the non-fat Greek yogurt and the cream cheese. And I use light cream cheese instead of fat-free. This increased the calories a bit, but it also increased the protein. But then I wasn't adding protein powder, so that was fine. With the egg whites, you gotta beat them until stiff peaks form. This is kind of difficult to do without an electric mixer, but it can be done. I also decided to use the electric mixer to beat the filling because it just prevents the clumps from being there. Well, I mean, you can still see a few more clumps, but that's fine. I'm not perfect. And yeah, I use raspberries, but honestly, you guys can use whatever fruit that you want. You're gonna gently fold those egg whites in, by the way. I probably could have done it more gently, but whatever. Now, obviously, cheesecake is naturally higher than protein than some other desserts because it has like the cheese, and in this case, the Greek yogurt, but having 30 plus grams of protein without protein powder, super impressive, guys. So I don't know if you guys have ever had a Japanese cheesecake, but this cheesecake I'd say has the texture and the consistency of that. So it's very light and airy, which is delicious. So I decided to drizzle some white chocolate on top. This is totally optional. And then yeah, guys, as I mentioned, this is a single serving cheesecake, but if you want it to be one that serves multiple people, like 8 slices, I'd recommend using like an 8-inch diameter baking circular tin. Why do I not know the name of that? Anyway, and multiplying the recipe by 3, and then that'll do the job. So obviously this recipe can be eaten in one go, but if you do want to save it, what I usually do is put it in the fridge and I cover it with plastic wrap. That's what I recommend doing because like no one wants a room temperature like heated cheesecake. I feel like that would taste gross. Yeah, this is super delicious and sweet and light and airy, and you guys are gonna love it. Next up, we got Dunkaroo Dip. Guys, this recipe is so easy. It's just 4 ingredients, no baking required. I wanted to mimic my childhood snack that my mom did not let me buy. If any of you are millennials watching this, you'll probably recognize Dunkaroos, but if not, then maybe you never had them before, but you're totally missing out. Actually, if you feel like you're missing out, then you can just make this recipe because it's way healthier than Dunkaroos. So I personally think that the electric mixer is key in this case because look at that texture. It can only really be achieved with the electric mixer, making it like creamy, fluffy like that. And then yeah, I added those sprinkles on top. I like to have a bunch of sprinkles. You can also mix them throughout as well. And then I actually went and bought actual Dunkaroos to include in this recipe just to, give it that authentic feel. So if you really want the authenticity of Dunkaroos, you can actually buy a package of them and use the cookies to dunk in this healthier dip. Or you can just use like whatever cookies you have lying around, or you can eat it with a spoon, whatever, I don't judge. This recipe would be a very good crowd pleaser. Like if you multiply it by, I don't know, 4, for example, however many people you're feeding, you can bring it to a party and it's a great like healthy snack. Here I am finally posting a Ninja Creamy recipe without protein powder. I don't know why it's taken this long. I've just defaulted to that. I guess it wasn't until recently that I got a comment asking me if I have any ice cream recipes without protein powder, and I thought like, why don't I? I feel like that'd be easy. But yeah, honestly guys, the ingredients in this recipe aren't groundbreaking. It's literally just 400 milliliters of Fairlife chocolate protein milk, and you can use whatever chocolate protein milk you have. Like I know Nelson Dairyland has one as well. The color of this recipe turned out so dark and rich, so I was super excited to get it into the machine. So yeah, as always, you're just gonna prepare it on light ice cream after putting it in the freezer for 24 hours. And then after that, we're gonna add a splash of unsweetened almond milk, just because obviously the texture here is a bit grainy. And then once we put it back in, we're gonna do the respin setting, not the mix-in, because we're not adding any mix-ins here. And then look at that texture that we've got. It's already looking so good. I knew it was gonna taste super rich. Look at that, it looked so good. I remember devouring this. My boyfriend absolutely loved it as well. Gotta put that ice cream scoop in there. But yeah, guys, as with all my Ninja Creamy recipes, I use a little bit of xanthan gum in there in order to give it this creamy texture. And then I also use the fat-free chocolate pudding mix and make sure to freeze it for 24 hours in order to give it that nice creamy texture just like that. I'm definitely gonna make more Ninja Creamy recipes without protein powder because clearly it's not that hard to do. Maybe I'll make a vanilla one. And of course, I've got to cuddle up with my weighted blanket and enjoy the rest of this pint. We're more than halfway there, and next up we've got blueberry muffins. Guys, I'm not gonna lie, the first time I made this recipe was a big fail because I didn't put any sweetener, and I also overfilled the muffin tins, which is such a rookie mistake. But anyway, this recipe makes 6 muffins. I feel like depending on the size of your muffin tin groove things, it could bake 7. But yeah, I asked ChatGPT to help me with this recipe actually, because I had listed the ingredients and then I was like, oh, this is not high enough in protein. And ChatGPT was like, add chia seeds. And I was like, wow, that's a great idea. So put some chia seeds in there to make this recipe super healthy. And I used frozen blueberries. I feel like it really works better. The batter might turn a bit purple/blue, which is totally fine. ChatGPT said that that was okay. So these muffins really pack a punch. They have nearly 10 grams of protein each. I feel like they make a great meal prep recipe to use for like snack or breakfast. I really like that purple batter. I also added some extra blueberries on top of there. So I bake them for the time that it says on the screen. Make sure to not over bake because then they're gonna be dry. If anything, you can check them partway through and like stick a fork in to make sure it comes out clean. And look at that. These were like way gooier and sweeter than my protein muffins actually. Like they actually tasted a lot better. These are chockable blueberries, so healthy, using natural ingredients. And I feel like I'm going to be making a lot more muffin recipes without protein powder. Next up, we got chocolate chunk cookies without protein powder. I'm not gonna lie, this recipe is a lot more difficult to make. I feel like protein cookies can easily turn out like spongy and gross, but these are really decadent, especially with those chocolate chunks. So obviously the non-fat Greek yogurt here is a huge culprit in increasing the protein as well as the egg. But yeah, you gotta make sure to add that sweetener in there and also add the chocolate chunks just to give it that sweetness, because the thing with making dessert recipes without protein powder is you don't have the sweetness of the protein powder. So yeah, I would recommend maybe storing the batter in the fridge for like 30 minutes just to make sure the cookies don't spread out as much, but honestly, optional step. And then yeah, don't over bake them. I just bake them for like 10 minutes and then they're gonna continue to bake while you let them cool. Now I know people are gonna comment and be like, oh, like that's not a lot of protein, but guys, the cookies literally have 55 calories and it makes 15 cookies. So obviously per cookie, it's not gonna have like 20 grams of protein, but if you want more protein, just eat more of the cookies. Yeah, these are made with oat flour. If you don't have oat flour, you could just use all purpose. Enjoy. Cream cheese brownies, guys. This is one of the first dessert recipes I ever made, and obviously I've remade it and stuff. When I made it, I'd actually realized that it didn't contain protein powder because I kind of adapted a recipe from another creator. And then I tasted it and I was like, this tastes great without protein powder. It literally doesn't even need it. But yeah, pretty simple ingredients. Obviously, the 3 eggs play a factor in it being higher in protein. Sometimes when I look back on my old recipes, I cringe and I'm like, that was terrible, whether it was like the actual recipe or just the way that I filmed it. But this particular one, I'm like, wow, I did a really good job there, didn't I? Now, I think I did film this version of the recipe when I didn't have an electric mixer. So you'll see here that I just use a fork and a lot of elbow grease. And I also make sure to warm up the cheese so it's like a little bit past room temperature. That makes it a lot easier to mix and beat. Honestly, it's fine if there are a little bit of chunks because you're just gonna bake them and they're gonna be gone. But yeah, you're gonna swirl the cream cheese around like I'm doing here just to make sure it's like distributed and give it that like cool text, like layer texture of the brownie slash the cream cheese layer. So you're gonna swirl that and you're gonna actually add a bit of the brownie batter on top like that. So save some of the batter. And then you're gonna use the back of a knife or a fork to swirl it around. I had this like circular baking tin. Again, it could be circular, square, rectangular, doesn't matter, whatever you have. And then yeah, look at that cool like texture that it gives. These are so low in calories. The macros in them are great because they're big and just over 100 calories each. We're almost done, guys. We've got cannoli dip. This recipe is so good. I don't even know where I got the idea. I think I just saw cannolis and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to just make just the filling as a dip? But yeah, ricotta cheese, light cream cheese, 0-calorie powdered sugar, vanilla extract. Those are basically the 4 ingredients you need to make the dip, and then obviously add in chocolate chips. Now, if you want a smoother texture, you could use an electric whisk, but if you want it to be a bit chunky like that, which honestly, I kind of enjoy that texture for cannoli dip, you could just mix it with a fork, and you need to store it in the fridge for like at least 30 minutes. I recommend even 2 hours just to make the texture better. And then what I did was break up like a waffle cone or something representing a waffle cone there in order to get the dip. I don't think I could find like actual cannoli, so that was gonna do. And yeah, this dip is massive. Basically, those macros are for 6 servings. Because I don't know, I highly doubt you're gonna eat that whole thing in one sitting. This, again, just like the Dunkaroo dip, it's a great crowd pleaser. It's great to like bring to share with friends, bring to a party. It's so good. Wow, do we really only have one more recipe left? Thank God. No, I'm kidding. So we've got chickpea blondies. These were actually inspired by Alex Earl and her friend whenever they posted that recipe. And I was like, I gotta make my own version. So yeah, these by default have no protein powder and you definitely need a blender to make them. Just gotta blend everything together. If you have a not so great blender like I do, might take a bit of shaking and elbow grease, but it'll get blended. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking, like chickpeas, ew, disgusting. Why would I eat dessert with chickpeas? But makes it high in protein. You can't taste the chickpeas. Honestly, I love a good chickpea blondie. I feel like that is the best way to make blondies. So yeah, use kind of like a similar size baking dish. The last recipe, I think this is like 6 by 9 inches. And you just gotta spread it out with the back of a wet spoon. Make sure it's even. Maybe even add some extra mini chocolate chips on there if you're feeling fancy. Yeah, make sure not to overbake this recipe. They're gonna come out super fudgy. I decided to sprinkle some sea salt on there and just look at them glisten. That is the right way to do it. I really like this nail color as well. I think I might have just got my nails done when I was taking this video. This recipe makes 10 chickpea blondies. You can also cut them into larger pieces if you want more of them. But yeah, great to share with friends or great for meal prep. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then I'm sure you're looking for more recipes without protein powders. So be sure to watch my high protein breakfast recipes video, as a lot of those recipes also don't contain protein powder. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a like, subscribe, and share it with your friends, as it really helps the channel, and I post new videos every week. And with that, I will see you guys next time. Bye.